Welcome to another incredible edition of Common Algebra. This video is for Algebra 1, Chapter 13, Section 6, Solving Rational Equations. Now remember how I told you you cannot forget anything you've ever learned in any math class your entire life. Well, this Section 6, grabs some of those old skills and brings them back again. Do you remember what we did when we had fractions in an equation that we didn't want? We wanted to get rid of them? Well, we accomplished this by multiplying each term of the equation by the LCD. Because if you pick the LCD correctly and you multiply it times everything, presto, change-o magic, the fractions are gone. And then we just solve the resulting equation, which is usually not too scary. And then we want to check our answers because sometimes we can come into problems with our denominators. Remember, we can never divide by 0. So if we get an answer that makes a denominator 0, that's a no-go. All right, so let's look at example 1, checking out the denominators 7 and 3. 7 and 3 both go into 21, so 21 is going to be our least common denominator. We're going to use it as a multiplier. All right, I'm going to just put these binomials in parentheses so we still respect them as numbers. We're going to multiply this first term times 21. We're going to multiply this second term times 21. And we're going to multiply this term times 21. Remember, you have to multiply each term, everything, by the same so you do not destroy your equation. Now, the second step is what we called do the math. Now, you are free, if you want to, multiply 21, distribute the 21, and then divide them both by 7. I'm a little bit lazy, and I want to do this dividing first, but it is your choice. I am choosing to divide 21 by 7, and I get 3. And I'm just going to try to do this one step at a time just to show you. So I did this 7 divided into 21 and got 3, and I haven't done my multiplying yet. Keeping the negative sign or subtract sign, now I'm going to divide 21 by 3 and get 7. I haven't multiplied yet by the x plus 2, but 1 times 21 is 21. So now what we have accomplished by multiplying everything by the LCD is that we have no fractions. So let's just go ahead and solve this resulting equation. First, I need to distribute. So I'll get 3x minus 21 minus 7x minus 14 equals 21. Combining like terms, 3x and negative 7x is negative 4x. 21 and 14 is negative 35. And that still equals 21. Add a 35 to both sides. And we get 56. Divide both sides by negative 4. And if I divided that right, I believe x is a negative 14. And then just coming up here and checking negative 14 in the numerators, this is not going to create any problem in the denominators. So this answer checks out. All right, looking at the next example, checking out our denominators. We have a 2x, a 12, and a 3x, and we want a common denominator to all of these. Well, the 2 and the 12 and the 3, all of them go into 12 evenly. And in order to include the other factor of x, that has to be in the LCD. So now I'm just checking. If 12x is the LCD I've chosen, let's see, 2x goes into it, so we're fine. 12 goes into it evenly, we're fine. And 3x goes into it evenly, so we're fine. We want to pick the LCD that divides evenly by all the denominators because when we multiply, we want the denominators to cancel or divide away. So now the next step is to multiply everything in our equation by 12x. So let's see if I can fit this in here. I'm going to multiply this fraction by 12x, this one by 12x, and this one by 12x. I wish I would have written that a little bigger font, but hopefully we can manage. So now I have 12x divided by 2x. Well, the x's cancel, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. Keep your plus sign. This next fraction, I have the 12's canceling, and 5 times x is 5x. Keep your equal sign. And now I have negative 12x over 3x, so I'll keep my negative sign. The x's cancel, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So please very carefully check that do the math step. Make sure that's okay with you. Subtract a 6 from both sides, and I get 5x equals negative 10. Divide both sides by 5. X is negative 2. So let's mentally grab this negative 2 here and plug it back into the original and check this answer. So in the first fraction, negative 2 times 2, so that would make it a negative 1/4. And that's just a plus 5/12. And is that going to equal a negative, well, I guess if I put the negative 2 in there, we'd end up with a positive 1/6. Changing this 1/4 into 3/12, negative 3/12, still checking, does this add up? 3 plus 5 is 2/12, and 2/12 is indeed 1/6. So this answer checks out perfectly. Now, as I look at example 3 and 4, I kind of debated whether I wanted to remind you of this strategy, because this section is about learning how to find the common denominator and multiply everything. But when you just have one fraction equal to another fraction, there's an easier method. And I just want to remind you of it back when we had proportion problems. If we had a proportion like this and we just had one number missing, we used cross multiplication, because the cross products of two equal fractions are equal. And if you have kind of forgotten this, I'll just try to remind you, you know that 1/2 is equal to 5/10 just by common sense. And then did you realize that 5 times 2 is the same as 1 times 10? So the fact that two equal fractions have equal cross products is so powerful, I just wanted to remind you of it. Now, you cannot use this strategy unless you just have two equal fractions. If there's two fractions on one side of the equal sign, you have to find the LCD and get rid of the fractions. But for these, let's go ahead and use the easier strategy of, I'm going to put these binomials in parentheses and let's cross multiply here. So 5 times x minus 6 is equal to negative 2 times x plus 1. Now we distribute. 5x minus 30 equals negative 2x minus 2. Get your x's together on one side and the numbers together on the other. So add a 2x to both sides and add a 30 to both sides. And then divide both sides by 7. And remember, we do have to check this answer in our denominators and make sure it does not bring a denominator to an answer of 0. So in the first denominator, you can just check this mentally. 4 plus 1 is 5, so that's not a problem. In the second denominator, 4 minus 6 is negative 2, so this answer checks out just fine. In this last example, we do have one fraction equal to another, so we can use the cross product strategy again. And I don't know if you realize this, but the cross products give you the same thing we would have gotten had we multiplied both sides by the common denominator, because the common denominator would be both of these binomials, and then the a minus 2's would cancel over here, so you would just get 4 times a plus 3. And if you multiplied this by the common denominator of a minus 2, a plus 3, the a plus 3's would cancel, and we'd be left with 3 times a minus 2, which is the cross product. So it really is the same strategy, but I just wanted you to be able to think of it both ways. Again, distribute and solve. Get the a's together, get the numbers together, and a is a negative 18. Just quickly checking that in the denominators. Negative 18 minus 2 is negative 20, so that denominator is fine. Negative 18 plus 3, negative 15. Again, that denominator is fine. So this answer checks out perfectly. Now you have the knowledge you need for section 13.6, so have fun with math.